just come to your mind, like without any planning.
Right, and he's also getting much better with the tools.
Right,
being able to
Tony is a one of a kind. Like he really is a rock star in this area.
So far,
I mean, he could,
by the way,
if he keeps it up, he will.
These are my notes.
Oh,
that I took
very good
on the various things.
He could end up being one of the best sports broadcasters by the time this is all over. I've never seen a transition that has been so slick.
Kanye West wears a MAGA hat.
Yeah. I don't know if he wears it all the time, but he did have one.
Do you know who Ben Shapiro is?
Yeah, he's a
commentator too.
He has a big following on social media as well.
200,000 on YouTube. But media suck at their job. Quote.
That's what
Do the job.
By the way, are we doing behind before?
I don't know. Are we rolling now? We're not rolling yet, are we?
Oh, we've been rolling.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
I've been educating as well.
Oh, good.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Well, welcome.
Oh, so all that stuff about Ben Shapiro and shit.
we got surprised.
Which is what we like anyway. It's kind of funny.
By the way, do we have a new sponsor there with a drink that you have?
No. I'd like vitamin water to be my sponsor, though.
I thought maybe
I drink a lot of it.
I thought you had a sponsorship. I didn't know about. Anyway, we welcome back our fireplace, even though it's not as cold this week as it was the last time we sat down here. Had a bizarre weather day yesterday. Today's kind of...
In the Massachusetts area.
Yeah,
the Midwest, though, is getting arctically frozen.
Right. They're getting what we had.
Actually,
we got what they had. Weather,
yes.
The weather...
The weather does come from west to east.
It does, yes. It does. Okay. So, anyway... this is kind of unseasonably warm.
It is. And I was walking around without a winter coat yesterday and loved it. Even though I got drenched.
Well, I was going to say, I almost blew away.
I did. I had a number. It was a battle. It was a battle walking.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's going to be a battle because we're going to try to blow you away with this podcast. Hit it, Steve.
You're tuned in to Behind the Media. Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young bring 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're going to have to embrace technology. If you're an educator...
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use the phone to help teach these kids.
You don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or
not a gong, a bong.
A bong.
With a B.
That's right. I said
the
gong.
Gong is a gong show.
I said gong.
Gong makes noise.
Bong.
Okay.
Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan.
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is. You have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying, which one do you want to be? The story went viral. Catholic school students wearing Make America Great hats taunt Native American elder in the nation's capital. Well, seeing isn't always believing.
She sang a song for Trump, even though her family, friends, and fans told her not to do it. Now, she's paying a high price. Who is she?
And where in the world is MSNBC's Morning Joe? Could tricks of the trade fool the audience?
And bites behind the media, including more media jobs on the chopping block. The NFL is finally off life support, and an effort to capture the stories of the last living Holocaust survivors. Plus, somebody took over the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Ooh. I know it's a bit early, but I'm so ready for summer. In lieu of that, we'll warm things up in the studio with a virtual fireplace and sizzling commentary. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
And welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Away, thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for the way we all travel, with features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery, built-in front pocket, and a range of colors and materials that suit your travel needs and Jimmy's. For $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com and enter promo code CLNS. Okay, Jimmy. So this is a story that really exploded. It exploded over the weekend. And last weekend.
Exploded so much.
So much that you didn't see it.
Didn't even know about it.
It exploded and blew right past you. How do you like that?
Well, I was more concerned about a football game. I'm sorry.
Yes, and I was as well. But I saw it first. I caught a whiff of this thing when a former colleague of mine at NBC and another former colleague of mine at CNN.
Are we going to name names?
No, I'm not. No, I
you
don't
know
wanna
who
shame
they
them.
are.
Although
you know who they are.
They did come back and apologize.
Yes, they did.
But they threw out, it was as if it was chum in the water for sharks. They threw out, check this video out. Another disgrace wearing, Make America Great hats, whatever. Little teasable stuff, clearly defining what the video was all about. I didn't look at the video. I just looked at that screenshot of a young kid staring down a Native American. At the time, I didn't know it was a Native veteran, elder. Mm-hmm. But that's what I saw. And I went back to watching the game and so forth. It went from that to, further dividing already polarized, maybe not further dividing, the polarized nation taking its side of this debate, even though we didn't even know what it was we were looking at.
It was gas on the fire.
It was.
It was just fueling the hatred that continues to burn under the surface of a lot of people's lives, and it's quickly coming to the surface.
Right.
And,
or living on the surface now, I should say.
But there's so many interesting aspects to this story.
But before you dive in, you're right. You bring up the point that it doesn't now, any little thing automatically goes to the extreme. Like before, something may go viral and people get but it doesn't all of a sudden divide straight down the middle. These people take it as this. Everything now gets divided.
Left, right,
exactly.
Conservative, right, conservative, liberal, religious, non-religious. I mean, let's continue to rush to judgment, people.
Yes, let's do that.
Because everybody else is doing it.
Why not? Tear people down.
I don't think that's very healthy, Dan.
Why not, Jimmy?
I don't think that's very healthy at all. In fact, when you look at the story, the basic story.
Yeah. Is there a basic story to this story?
Yes.
What is the basic story?
Okay, now I looked at about an hour and 20 minutes of unedited video. Mm-hmm. I watched a few stories by former journalists. Actually, they're not former; they're actually working real journalists, paid current journalists. Let's make it
people
current
working in journalism.
People actually still working in the media journalism, telling their stories, and then the fallout and some of the talk shows and stuff. And I'll admit, I've never heard Joe Rogan before, but I certainly had heard of him.
Right.
So I was intrigued by watching him for about 20 minutes last night.
Wow, that's a lot of homework.
It is. I told you, and then I got into it.
You were all in.
I was all in.
The teacher gave the assignment.
That's right.
And you said, "Teacher,
yes,
I'm going to make this my master's thesis."
No, I'm not going to make it my master's thesis, but I'm going to be the professional talk show host that I keep thinking I am. Or
nice qualifiers. All these
right.
qualifiers.
A blushing, smirking 16-year-old kid 3 inches away from the face of a Native American banging a drum.
Right.
I think those are the facts.
Did I? That is the fact of what led to what we're talking about.
Right.
But what that supposedly meant was not the fact.
Right. Well, no. Where it went. If you just look at that photo, in my class over at Dean College,
yes,
I have this assignment called "A Picture Says 1,000 Words."
Mm-hmm.
So I put a picture up, and I asked them to describe the picture
in 1,000 words.
In 1,000 words.
What if it's 999?
I haven't gotten more than probably. I think the best one was about 130 words.
Oh. Well, something's wrong, Mr. Professor.
Yeah, I know it. Well, actually,
anyway.
I was actually thrilled that they actually described the picture and what they were looking at rather than what the moment was about. But that's another story.
Okay. So there's the picture.
So we have the picture of the 16-year-old who was, I'm trying to think back to the time when I was a 16 or 17-year-old, and if I did anything like that in the past, I'm not quite sure I ever did.
Well, I mean, I don't know that what they did, it's not, you can't come down on either side clearly, but broadly speaking, based on what later comes out, and we'll get to that, what did they really do something that was extreme?
The
kids.
The kids?
Right.
No, they were definitely a few just a few.
They were doing,
the old story about how a few can wreck it for the masses,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So there was a few things that were chanted and talked and thrown out there, but that was after this confrontation had gone on for quite a while, and it was becoming uncomfortable. The timing of it was becoming uncomfortable.
By the way, a few ruin it for the masses.
Yeah.
We used to go to Washington, D.C. for our senior trip.
Yeah.
The class before us went to Washington, acted up in the hotel, did all kinds of stuff.
No more trips.
No more trips. Mine was the first year that got canceled.
I remember
the few ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, no, we had that issue too coming back in sixth
those
grade.
Idiots. I still hate those, seniors.
It's so weird what you remember from a kid.
I'm gonna hunt them down today and go after them. So they ruined my trip.
It's the lesson.
Anyway,
let's look at the biggest picture here. Let's now walk away and just look at this. I'm actually impressed that there wasn't any physical confrontation other than you're invading my personal space. But there was no it was mob mentality that never exploded.
Very good. Yeah.
Which
it didn't explode until it went online.
Well, no, the media exploded and they screwed it up totally
they
in a lot of ways.
They completely did.
But it's a great example of how a negative can turn into a positive because now it's created a conversation about a lot of different issues here.
It has.
And we all have done this. We jump to conclusions. As soon as you heard, well, where were these kids? What were they doing there? Oh, they were a high school, a private school.
A Catholic school. Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky.
Did you notice I did not call it a Catholic school?
But it is. It's Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky.
I understand
that.
Okay. I'm trying to keep any kind of religion out of this,
No,
which is totally impossible.
No, because they were there for a March for Life anti-abortion or pro-life
a march,
event.
Right, and the bus was late.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No, I did not know
That's
the bus
why they
was
were
late.
hanging around.
Oh,
the bus
I did
was
not.
late.
Well, the bus is always late.
The bus is always late.
So really blame the bus driver.
And they have...
Let's track down the bus driver.
Right.
In all of this.
And they have chaperones and some teachers along.
Exactly. So they're there,
and the Native American. So there's the scene. You've got to know that. Even look, if I now know about it, everybody should know about it.
So let's set the scene.
Because I do live.
So they're there. The kids from this Catholic high school are participating in this pro-life march.
Yeah, but the pro-life march, I want to make sure everybody understands. It was not at the Lincoln,
but that's,
at the Lincoln Memorial.
But that's why they were
hanging out there waiting for the bus.
Some of the young people were wearing the Make America Great red hats.
That they had bought that day on the streets from a vendor in Washington, where I understand they're a hot item.
They sell all that stuff in Washington.
Oh, great.
So for those of you who might be living under a rock, the hat could be you love Trump and you voted for him and you want to wear it.
Because it's his moniker.
Right.
It's his brand. But
it's also symbolizing a lot of stuff.
He didn't trademark that, did he?
Maybe he did.
Did he?
Yes.
So
there's that issue. And so then there's the photo of this young man standing with this guy who is a Native American elder, who is a
Marine reservist,
a veteran, and he was, beating his drum.
And I got to tell you, he definitely has become more of the villain in this story because the first reports of journalists were getting quotes from him.
Right. And the sense was that the story went out there, and the bottom line of the story is that this one kid who was doing the stare down and those that you saw in the background wearing the Make America Great hats were taunting the Native American elder.
Now,
that was the perceived storyline, which took off like wildfire, or like our fireplace here on social media.
But that's not inaccurate. Because there were tomahawk chops.
Yes, but that wasn't the story.
No. I understand it. But to say that there were taunts is accurate.
But that kid who was staring him down
did not taunt.
He was not, and he was not wearing a hat. I heard at one point that he was wearing a hat.
No.
Even though the picture didn't show him wearing a hat.
Not wearing a hat.
Now, what was missing in all of this were the black people.
Well, no. But actually, the Native Americans... what Nathan Phillips, who is the Native American, that's his name.
Yep.
What he has explained is he heard this cult group of black Hebrew Israelites.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. But in the pic, what I'm saying is,
and that video, by the way, the video of what that was,
they're saying some crazy stuff.
Really inciting violence,
against
racial
all
epithets.
Races, even
Take
blacks.
your pick. The only people he didn't. You know what else he did? The only people he didn't rip?
Who?
Martians.
Yeah, they may have it.
No, they did not rip Martians.
I think if you listen long enough, you can start hearing it. More. No, but it was in none of the original stories mentioned that I saw mentioned anything about the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Right.
First of all,
which is a cult. It was a cult.
That means I'm you, Jimmy.
I never. Yeah, welcome aboard, pal. but you know what? And yet they espouse one family of humanity.
Yeah.
You know, we should be all getting along. We should be talking. We should embracing our differences. It's weird. It's like their message gets lost in their rhetoric.
Right. And it was intense rhetoric.
Oh,
so
no,
anyway,
it was violent, racist.
It was violent. Yes, it was.
It was horrible.
It was the black version of the KKK.
Yes, it was disgusting.
Right.
And
they were vomiting all over that parade.
Right. And what you said to me when I asked you about that group, and he goes, oh, God, in Washington, D.C., there are tons of these cult people and protesters all the time.
Right.
For decades.
Yes.
Right? Because they go to D.C. and they say, we're going to get attention.
That's where you go to get attention.
That's where they go.
Yes.
So anyway, we've set the scene now. And the Native American guy said, you know what, before this gets out of hand, we've got a mob of kids. By the way, teenage boys.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, because once again, men behaving badly. Okay, there was not too many females in this.
Oh, there were some.
There were some. In fact, the few of the sound bites or little interjections I heard of the females made a lot of sense.
Right. Which they typically do.
Yes, and, you know, we all sit there and go, yep, you're right, dear. Whatever you say, because you're right. You're right 95%.
It's good training as a kid, a teenager. And
anyway.
It's going to be that way when you get married.
Right.
Yes, yes, honey.
We laugh. And you know, I've talked about Jackson Katz and this book, Macho Paradox, where I really believe it is up to men to change their own behavior.
Right.
And I'm really worried more now than I've been in a while about that, given the behavior that I saw of the teenage boys.
Right. But now, the reason we're jumping all over this is because not only did it go like wildfire on social media, which you can understand that people just tweet and say whatever, but then the mainstream or news organizations picked it up and continued that narrative based solely on about a minute's worth of video.
Yes.
And that's still shot. Everyone, the talk show, everyone was condemning these kids to the point where I think they were getting ready to be kicked out of school. Like they had contacted the head of their
Oh, no, there's been death threats to the kid. And
they made a mistake. They named the wrong kid, I guess, initially.
Right.
And there was, so they were going after the wrong family. And then the family itself, they had some wedding and it was disrupted. I mean, this is crazy stuff.
Raw emotions that a certain someone is to blame for this.
Well, there it is.
I'm sorry, Dan. You're never going to convince me it has nothing to do with this guy. He has fed the hateful doctrine in this country.
But wait, there's more. Because now we're learning. So wait, before I say this, it turns out that when you see the entire most of the rest of what was going on there, and you realize that the Black Hebrew Israelites were really the instigators of all this, and that these kids, for the most part, were trying to sort of calm things down. When you see the whole video, you realize that minute was wrong, then all of a sudden the news organization started apologizing. Like a lot of these people who were saying, going after those kids and saying, this, that, and the other about racist kids wearing, the storyline, racist kids wearing, Trump hats, go after this guy. Now they have to do the mea culpa. But wait, there's more.
Yes.
Because it turns out, you're blaming Trump for this, but it turns out that it may be, we really don't know who it is. We think it might be a liberal person, but we don't know. There's sort of this mystery Twitter account that was shut down, which was the one that pushed this story initially. Did you know this, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think I did.
It's under the name of a school teacher.
Right.
But it really is owned by somebody operating out of Brazil.
Great.
I mean, this story, you can't make this stuff up. This is as bizarre as you can imagine. So now Twitter has shut down this account that has apparently been active since 2016. And was it a liberal group that was really trying to fan the flame? Was this like one of these bots that's just trying to, from another country that's trying to
Russia? We're going to blame it on Russia.
Who knows? Are they trying to just get, basically get us all worked up and sit back and laugh and, let them eat each other up there in the United States?
Well,
we don't know.
We certainly are watching that happen. The other thing that I've learned a lot about left-wing liberals, and
there's someone left of you.
Well, that's just I don't know. I mean, I will tell you, it's pretty rare. I got to tell you. That being said, I didn't know that left-wing liberals hate religious people. I heard this on Joe Rogan's talk show, or maybe it was Ben Shapiro's. I don't care.
I think that's
All right, excuse me,
but you don't.
In fact, I embrace it. I respect people who are dedicated to their religion to the point where they sacrifice a lifestyle for the religion.
Right.
I just think that it's the extremists in religion that scare me.
Right.
So I have the respect card out for that, and I guess that disqualifies me as a liberal now.
Well, certainly from the group you're talking about,
Wow.
which is left of religion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was like, okay. There's a lot of stuff here about the denial of individuality now, that you can't act as an individual in civil disobedience against another individual
you
without
can't do that because there are cameras everywhere.
There are
and
cameras
they'll take
everywhere.
whatever it is that they want out of that. So you post something on Twitter, you post it on Facebook, whatever platform you use, Instagram, you put it out there. Anyone can take what you post and use it for whatever agenda they are trying to fuel.
So what is the requirement or the prerequisite for traditional media to recognize when a story is a social media news
Very
story,
good question.
not a news story?
That is, I'm so glad you brought that up.
That's
Jimmy,
what we.
because
That's the whole
That's
point.
the whole point. And I think that whenever a story goes viral, it's okay for everybody to trip over themselves online with it. But once it crosses into nightly news, the Today Show, CBS Evening News, CNN, Fox, you have to verify. You can't just jump to conclusions on a slice of that video.
Right.
You should be cross-referencing,
But we
interviews.
Do, as
all of
humans,
that.
we have
We
these
do that.
human personal biases.
Yes,
when we
we do.
look at a picture, one person is going to see and another person is going to see
But
another
you
thing.
can't do that as a responsible
Correct.
news
But
organization.
there's still that get it first. That get it
Yes.
first mentality is what caused this.
You're right.
In
And
the
you know what else?
24/7 news cycle that is fueled by social media now.
I think you're right. And you know what else? And I know this is not popular to say this. For those who believe that most of mainstream media is liberal, they will argue that the reason this happened was because everybody's hoping something like this would happen. They embrace the storyline. Why check it out if you want the storyline to be true? You want to have young white kids with, the Trump hats, staring down and belittling a Native American. Forget the facts. If the picture shows that feeds into the bias of traditional news organizations. Now, I'm not taking that position. I'm just saying some argue that, right? If you have liberal news people out there, the moment they see something that feeds into the liberal storyline, they are all over it.
Right.
If it doesn't, well, they might investigate it to find out first.
Well, we hope they now have learned their lesson
Well,
at
yeah.
this point. And news directors, it's a tough job to decide when do you go with the story. By the way, that's been going
That's
on
always
in
been
print
going on.
journalism for decades.
But it's
and
warp speed now.
Now it's at warp
with
speed.
a lot of stuff coming at you.
That's exactly right.
Right.
You've got to be careful what you say. It's so funny, though, Dan. You talked about traditional media. Audiences are going down in traditional media, right?
But what is traditional media now?
Television and radio.
But now the
commercial
TV
television and radio.
But you know what now? They're also in the business of all the other stuff.
Well,
So it's
they're
not
trying
like-
they're trying to get audience.
Exactly.
They're trying to build an audience,
Yep.
so they're trying to get as many people to watch and follow them and cover them. And then you look onto the, I admit I went onto the dark, not the dark web,
What's
but
on
not the
the-
dark
how'd you
web.
find the dark
but
web?
I'm watching other podcasts. I'm watching political podcasts and talk shows, which, by the way,
went onto
is
the
so
dark
foreign
web.
to me. You know what I mean? I like the Rams versus Patriots talk. You know what I mean? That's what that escape from the reality.
I'm
please.
still stuck on the dark web.
Oh my goodness!
You found it.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Wasn't
No,
difficult, Dan.
I think this is definitely a teachable moment, and I think it is. I am glad that and I talked about this earlier, that when it came out that in fact the story that was initially reported was all the facts weren't there, and it didn't necessarily vindicate either side. But I know CNN, for example, put out like a 3.5-minute piece that detailed well, this is actually what happened.
Right.
And this was the group that was actually fueling this whole situation. And so I am glad. I mean, that's the whole thing. When you make a mistake, you got to own up to it. You got to tell your audience, this is the reason we made the mistake. And then you hopefully put things into place that prevent something like this from happening again.
Now, I want to just throw one more thing in that I noticed that I want to comment on.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So part of the unedited video was showing this school acting like a school.
Right.
We had another young male teen deciding to take off his shirt, take off his pants.
Yeah, that's right.
Give it a little flex.
Yeah.
You know, he got his peers, all riled up, and they
Yeah.
started chanting school fight songs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right, school songs.
Yeah.
I mean, they are fight songs.
He thought it was a pep rally.
Well, the chaperones were the ones who said, that's okay, you guys can do that, because they thought that would diffuse
It's
building
shifting the attention
situation.
to something else.
Right.
Something goofy or
which
whatever.
is how conflict
Yes.
resolution is supposed to work.
Exactly.
Right? I
Yep.
mean, they learned this. I'm guessing
Yep.
at some point these chaperones learned how to deal with conflict resolution.
Yeah,
I would
think so.
hope.
They do it every day in the classroom.
That's right. I was going to
That's what they
say.
do.
Right. So, again, this happened during this whole
Yes, you're
scene
right.
over about 2 hours, and it's all because the buses were late.
But I think it all goes back to the bus driver.
The damn bus driver.
he should have been
He's
there.
getting off scot-free. We don't even know who that is.
Right, and they're always late, those bus drivers out there. But, there's always that kid that does that at the school, takes off the shirt, and that's the funny kid, and they'll get most humorous or whatever in the yearbook.
Right, probably. When do we protect the identity of minors?
I think they should always be protected unless you put yourself out there. And
He did.
I think it's my understanding that the young man and his I
Nick
had his
Sandman.
name. Yeah, he outed himself.
Yes, he
at
did.
some point once it was.
Well, then he
being
got
reported.
coach. There's definitely coaching going on.
Oh, he was
and
very
he's
good.
handling
He
the
is
crisis. He's doing very good. And
He'll
of course,
get a
Nathan
job
Phillips
out of
ripped
it.
him for that too. And I was like, "Come on, man! Don't rip him for handling this. He's a
Yeah.
16-year-old kid, for crying out
He's
loud,
pretty good,
in a
though.
crisis communication
Yep.
issue.
Yep.
That now the whole nation knows about.
I think it will know about him in the future. Kids like that rise to the top. I mean, you could argue about different aspects of this, but he certainly had a certain poise to him that was well beyond his years.
Yes,
But as we keep saying, wait, there's
one more thing. There's
one
more.
more thing. Yeah, there's more. The one other element to this is that the Today Show, Savannah Guthrie, did an interview with him.
Yes.
The young man, and
I watched the whole
She
thing.
caught a lot of heat. I mean, social media beat her up because they said it was a softball interview, giving him, and some still believe that he was guilty of sin. And I was amazed at the backlash against her for conducting that interview.
Well,
So-
yeah, I agree with that on that
Yeah.
end, because I watched the interview.
And you thought it was.
Very difficult interview to do.
Right.
Dan, this goes back to parenting. It really does.
Doesn't everything?
It really does.
Yeah.
If you think about it, especially the behavior of kids. And I'm going to put anybody who's young enough to be my kid in that category,
Yeah.
which pretty much is anybody under the age of 40,
Daddy.
42.
Hi, Daddy.
Okay, so yeah. So that being said, but this is what concerns me, is that these teachings that are divisive
Right.
are being taught still in our homes. It's still
Well,
happening, Dan.
Yeah,
it is still
but I don't know
happening.
that this story's about that. I mean, I think the kids, look, I think kids, it was cool to get the hats they're selling. Hey, let's do this. I think, I don't know that there was anything deeper than that.
What do I
They're
say?
probably,
Great
they're
thing.
bored.
Idiotic male teen
That's what
boy
it is.
behavior.
I probably, as a kid, whatever the other hat was at the time when I was around, I don't know what it was, but I probably would have done the same thing. Let's just do this to get a rise. The difference is there's no video around to show any of the crazy stuff I did.
And now there's a ton of video.
In fact, you pointed out, someone said they looked at all the video.
You couldn't have gotten 500 videos that are out there.
Because
You couldn't.
everyone is a videographer.
Everyone is a videographer now because they're walking around with it. And there's plenty more to this story to talk about.
But we would go over time.
Yep.
Yeah. Man,
Okay.
I don't know if I've ever seen a story like this. It's like an
So
octopus.
many elements.
And the minute you chop off all the legs, more grow back.
That's right. So kids, don't smirk,
Yeah.
first of all. Nonverbal communication is a powerful thing.
I say smirk all you want. If you like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. Have any questions? Drop us a line at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. A Grammy Award-winning R&B singer thought she was building a bridge by singing for President Trump. Instead, she was digging a very deep hole. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Away, thoughtful standards for modern travel. Away makes suitcases for the way we all travel, with features like an ejectable TSA-approved battery and multiple colors, range of colors and materials to suit your travel style.
How many colors are there, Dan?
Look at the rainbow and you'll get your answer.
There you go.
For $20 off a suitcase, visit awaytravel.com and enter promo code CLNS. So her name is Chrisette Michelle
Payne.
Well, that's the full name, right?
Correct.
Exactly.
Full name. I want to give her full name.
But I don't know if that's her stage name. When she's singing, I think she drops the pain.
Okay.
Or
I've been trying
she's
to
in more
drop my-
pain.
Well, I was gonna say,
currently
but-
she's in pain.
This is a painful story.
It's a painful story.
And again, it's another rush to judgment.
It is a rush. It is a rush to. Well, this
And
is
it's-
more the divided country saying, "Don't do something. If you do, we'll punish you." And she's getting
Right.
punished. So
Correct.
the backstory here is that she's again a Grammy Award-winning artist. Has been selling out some venues had been selling out venues in the past, and she's invited to sing at a Trump inauguration party, and this was, of course, a couple of years ago. She was told at the time by her husband,
Yeah.
by her friends,
Yep.
by her fans,
Yeah. And a manager, too.
and a manager,
Right.
Don't
do it.
Do it. But she thought that by performing, she was, as an African American, artist, she was building a bridge.
She was trying
She was
to
trying
do
to build a
something right by singing
Right.
at an event that was associated with POTUS.
Right. And the reason for it, what the feedback she got was, how in the world can you sing at an event for Trump when his whole campaign and how he was, brought into office was negative or had a negative impact on minorities?
Right. He was racist, Dan.
Well,
I'm
that's
sorry.
what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
just
and I will
saying,
use the word.
I was
he
cautiously laying
I
out
know
the
you were.
case
I know you were.
as
That's-
it was presented to her
Because you are the
by her
professional
fans.
and I am the hack. I get that. That's okay.
So she says, I'm going to go ahead and do it because I'm a bridge builder. That was
That's
a
right,
tongue-
she's a bridge
I'm
builder.
a bridge builder, not a bridge blower upper.
Right.
And but now her career has all blowed up.
Which I just think is amazing. To me, when you're a musician, people should not judge your art form
right.
with political bias.
Yeah, but it's not like that anymore.
Well,
it's
look,
anything.
By the way, Bob Dylan sang "Blowing in the Wind." I mean,
Yeah.
these times they are a changing. I mean,
are.
Those Bruce Springsteen has been known as a very prolific songwriter when it comes to songs and music and that sort of
Right.
thing. But it is this guy.
It is, and
It's
I
this
don't
guy.
know of anything like this where you perform at someone's event and now your audience abandons you. But that's apparently so. She not only that, but her distributor for her album, they pulled out of the deal.
Right.
They no longer, whoever the distributor was for her albums, they no longer want to be associated with her. Apparently, radio stations stopped playing her songs because she appeared on radio stations that weren't happy about a Trump presidency.
She tried after she sang. She tried to go on to traditional radio. and television.
They wouldn't.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have her. But what's even worse, I mean, there were some personal problems that came about as well. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
She lost a baby. She lost a
had a
pregnancy.
miscarriage as well. It is, and she believes that the stress of all of this has led to where she is right now. And
by the way, I understand that. I totally can get that,
Yeah.
and that I feel bad for her now.
I think
Doesn't take away from the fact that she's still a very talented musician, a great singer. Does not take away from that.
And I think what happens is that the fans, I don't know, you can't say necessarily that fans are different than they were before, but the difference in how fans can impact you is they have the power to sort of go after you online. There's a lot of power. We talk about the good of social media, that people have a lot of power in their hands. They can also turn that around.
All the
and get
cyberbullying.
you.
Cyberbullying.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
they can definitely come after you, and they've done that. And it's interesting. There was this one quote in an article on this whole story, and she pointed out that she still feels the sting of former fans who saw themselves in her music. So it's like this connection that they had with her. They feel a betrayal of that connection. And they accuse her of selling her blackness to a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
well. Look again. This is the mentality of the mob that is the public now.
right.
We have a growing mob mentality amongst the public.
Right, right. Well, I think what this points out, and this is beyond the aspects of sort of the issue of media alone, but a lot of the debate usually is, white versus black, black versus white. This here is black versus black. I mean, I'm presuming here, I'm making a presumption that a lot of her fan base, since it's the kind of music that she sings, and based on some of the statements that were made, that they are black or minority groups, and they gravitate to her music. And now you're beating up your own because that person was only trying to build a bridge between you and the black and Hispanic community, and
I hate labels,
else.
Dan.
But
hate
that's
that.
We live in a nation of labels.
I'm tired of labels. I loved Motown.
Yeah.
Okay, I grew up with Motown. I've seen the Broadway play 3 times. I love the music.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It's music. Okay.
I know, but their labels are how things are marketed. It is how things are sold. And for better or worse, it's the way that society is.
We jump to too many conclusions.
Yes, we do.
Put too many names on people for whatever action they're doing or whatever music they like or whatever shows they like. We are judging our fellow man instead of embracing him and talking to him.
So how do you fix this? So she goes
Talk
out
to
there.
them.
In this
Keep
particular
singing.
Right. Well, but here's the problem. In order to keep singing, as they pointed out, so she had sold out. I think it was in Pennsylvania. There was a particular venue that she had been to where it was like 1,500 seats or something like that. She sold it out the last time she was there a couple years ago. Now she goes back and
half the seats.
There was like an echo in the place.
Yeah, well, half the seats. And you know what she did? What did she do, Dan,
No,
as a
you tell me.
musician? Oh, I'll tell you what she did.
The music.
She sang the longest concert she's ever sung.
Yeah. Give them what they came for.
She over-delivered
right.
what she was contractually, because she was so happy to see people who were willing to listen to her music, to enjoy her art.
Right.
And
right.
I always respect musicians. I have the utmost respect for singers and musicians. I can't do it.
Right.
So, I can't do it.
Well, you could if you tried.
I had the clarinet in 3rd grade.
You played the clarinet?
I did.
I didn't know that.
I did.
And it squawked all the time?
No, actually, I got